Reality, in its deepest sense, does not begin with the shapes we see, the names we give, or the boundaries we draw. It begins before all of that, before form, before definition, before the mind learns to divide the world into this and that. At the foundation of early Greek thinking lies a powerful idea that everything arises from something without limit, something without a fixed identity, something so vast and undefined that human language struggles to describe it. It is not a thing among things. It is the condition that makes all things possible. To understand this, imagine trying to trace everything back to its origin. You take a tree and ask where it comes from. It comes from a seed. The seed comes from another tree. The tree comes from soil, water, sunlight, and time. But then you ask where soil comes from, where water comes from, where even matter itself comes from. Each answer only pushes the question deeper. Eventually, you reach a point where no specific form is enough to explain everything that has form. At that point, early thinkers suggested, we must stop imagining a single known element like water or air as the source. Instead, we must accept something more fundamental, an indefinite reality from which all defined things emerge. This indefinite reality is not chaos in the sense of disorder. It is not randomness. Rather, it is a fertile boundlessness. It holds every possibility without committing to any one of them. Within it, nothing is yet separated. Hot and cold are not enemies. They are not even distinct. Wet and dry are not opposites yet. They are simply potential states within a deeper unity. It is only when emergence begins that distinction appears, like ripples forming on a still and infinite sea. From this perspective, reality is not built from solid, unchanging blocks. It is a process of unfolding. What we call things are temporary expressions of something deeper and unlimited. A stone, a river, a star, and even a human being are not final products, but moments in a continuous transformation. They arise, take shape, and eventually dissolve back into the same boundless source. Nothing truly begins from absolute nothingness, and nothing disappears into absolute nothingness. Instead, everything is a movement within an endless field of becoming. This way of thinking shifts how we understand existence itself. If the origin of all things is indefinite, then no single form can claim ultimate permanence. Every structure in nature carries within it the seed of its own transformation. A mountain slowly erodes into dust. Dust becomes soil. Soil becomes life. Life becomes thought. Thought returns again to silence. The cycle is not accidental. It is the expression of a deeper order that operates beyond fixed shapes. It also suggests that reality is generous in its possibilities. Because it is not restricted to one form or one rule, it can give rise to infinite expressions. The diversity of the world, the countless species, elements, and phenomena, is not a collection of unrelated accidents. It is the natural outcome of something boundless expressing itself in limited ways. Each form is like a temporary boundary drawn in an ocean without edges. But boundaries are always temporary. This is where change becomes essential to understanding reality. Nothing stays in its present state forever, because everything is drawn from a source that has no final state. What exists is constantly negotiating between what it is becoming and what it is ceasing to be. Stability, then, is not absolute stillness, but a balanced tension between opposing forces that emerge from the same origin. In this view, existence is less like a finished structure and more like a living rhythm. Creation and dissolution are not opposites. They are two movements of the same process. Something appears only because something else is transforming. When one form fades, another becomes possible. The world is in constant motion, not because it lacks order, but because its order is dynamic rather than fixed. This also leads to a deeper reflection on human perception. The mind naturally prefers definition. It likes to label, categorize, and separate. We say, this is a tree, this is water, this is me. But these labels are only surface descriptions. They help us navigate life, but they do not reveal the underlying continuity of existence. Beneath these distinctions lies a shared origin that does not divide itself in the way our thoughts do. Because of this, human understanding is always partial. We see the world through limited frames, like looking at a vast landscape through small windows. Each window shows something real, but none shows everything. The boundless source of reality cannot be fully captured by any single perspective, system, or explanation. At best, we glimpse fragments of a larger whole. Yet this limitation is not a weakness, it is a reminder. It reminds us that reality is larger than comprehension, and that mystery is not a failure of knowledge, but a sign of depth. The more we understand, the more we realize how much remains beyond definition. The indefinite is not something to be solved, but something to be recognized as the ground of all solutions. When we place this idea alongside other reflections about existence, a wider picture begins to form. If reality emerges from the indefinite, then opposites are not separate forces, but expressions of a shared origin. If all things arise from balance, then change is not disorder, but a form of justice within nature. If forms evolve over time, then life itself is part of a continuous unfolding rather than a fixed design. And if the earth and cosmos exist in equilibrium, then their stability is not supported from outside, but maintained through internal harmony. Seen together, these insights form a unified vision. Reality is a dynamic process rooted in the boundless, structured through balance, expressed through transformation, and only partially accessible to human thought. Nothing is isolated, nothing is permanent, and nothing exists outside the flow of becoming. And so we arrive at a simple but profound understanding. The world is not a collection of separate, finished objects, but a living expression of something without limits. Everything we see is a temporary form of the formless. Everything we know is a small part of the unknown, and everything that exists participates in a deeper unity that cannot be fully named, only approached through reflection. From this foundation, we begin to see why balance, change, evolution, and cosmic order are not separate ideas, but connected expressions of the same underlying reality, one that continues to unfold beyond what any single perspective can contain. Opposites are often treated as if they are enemies. Heat is seen as the absence of cold, light as the absence of darkness, order as the absence of chaos. But this way of thinking is too simple for the structure of reality. In the deeper view of the world shaped by early Greek reflection, opposites are not separate forces fighting for dominance. They are paired expressions of a single underlying reality, emerging together, defining each other, and continuously transforming into one another. To understand this, we must first notice something subtle but constant in nature. Nothing is experienced in isolation. We only recognize heat because we also know cold. We only understand rest because we have experienced motion. Even ideas like high and low or beginning and end depend on comparison. Without contrast, experience would collapse into an undifferentiated field where nothing could be distinguished. This means that opposition is not an accident of perception. It is the very condition that makes perception possible. In the natural world, this pattern becomes even clearer. Day does not simply replace night as a ruler replaces a defeated rival. Instead, day and night form a continuous cycle, each giving structure and meaning to the other. Without night, day would lose its boundary. Without day, night would lose its definition. They are not enemies in conflict, they are partners in rhythm. Their interaction creates the experience of time itself. The same pattern appears in temperature. Heat and cold are not separate substances occupying different regions of reality. They are different states within a shared continuum. What we call heat is simply a movement toward one extreme, and what we call cold is a movement toward another. Neither exists independently in a pure form within nature for long. Each flows into the other. Fire cools into ash. Ice melts into water. Water evaporates into air. Transformation is constant, and through transformation, opposites reveal their hidden connection. This suggests a deeper principle. Opposites are not fixed identities, but dynamic relationships. They exist only in relation to each other, and they constantly shift within a broader system of balance. Reality is not built from static categories, but from tensions that are always in motion. These tensions are not destructive, they are generative. Without them, nothing would change, nothing would grow, and nothing would exist in recognizable form. Consider life itself. Growth and decay appear to be opposites, one associated with creation and the other with destruction. Yet they are inseparable. Growth depends on decay. Soil is formed from the breakdown of organic matter, allowing new life to emerge. Decay depends on growth. Only living things can eventually break down. Even within a single organism, life is a constant negotiation between building up and breaking down. The body renews itself through processes that both create and dissolve. What seems like opposition is actually cooperation at a deeper level. This principle extends beyond biology into the structure of the cosmos. The movements of celestial bodies, the cycles of seasons, the shifting of weather patterns, all are governed by interacting G-forces that seem opposed but are ultimately interdependent. Expansion and contraction, attraction and repulsion, movement and stillness. These are not separate principles, but expressions of balance within a unified system. The world does not function through the dominance of one force over another, but through their continuous interplay. From this perspective, conflict itself takes on a new meaning. What appears as struggle between opposites is often the surface expression of a deeper equilibrium-seeking expression. When forces push against each other, they are not necessarily trying to eliminate one another. They are shaping boundaries, creating structure, and maintaining balance within a system that would otherwise dissolve into uniformity. Without tension, there would be no differentiation. Without differentiation, there would be no world as we know it. This also applies to human experience. Joy and sorrow, success and failure, certainty and doubt. These are often treated as opposites that define our emotional landscape, yet they are deeply interconnected. Joy gains its intensity because sorrow exists. Success gains its meaning because failure is possible. Certainty becomes valuable because doubt challenges it. A life without contrast would not be more peaceful. it would be empty of meaning altogether. Meaning arises from difference, and difference arises from the interaction of opposites. Even knowledge itself depends on this structure. To understand one idea, we often rely on its opposite. We understand justice in contrast to injustice, truth in contrast to falsehood, freedom in contrast to constraint. Our thinking is built on distinctions, but those distinctions are not fixed divisions in reality. They are tools that help us navigate a world that is fundamentally interconnected. When we forget this, we begin to believe that opposites are absolute separations rather than relational patterns. But nature does not recognize absolute separation. It moves continuously between states. Water becomes vapor and returns as rain. Living things inhale and exhale. The earth itself shifts through cycles of stability and change. Everywhere we look, we find transitions rather than boundaries. Opposites are not endpoints. They are directions within a larger movement. This leads to a profound insight. Reality is structured not by static oppositions, but by dynamic balance. What holds the world together is not the victory of one force over another, but their ongoing interaction. Balance is not stillness. It is motion held in equilibrium. It is the continuous adjustment between extremes that allows existence to remain coherent and alive. In this sense, opposites are not flaws in the fabric of reality. They are its architecture. They create depth, variety, and motion. Without them, there would be no change, no development, no experience. Everything would collapse into undifferentiated sameness. But because opposites exist in relation, the world becomes a field of transformation, where every state contains the possibility of its opposite. And so we begin to see a larger pattern forming. If reality emerges from something boundless and indefinite, then opposites are expressions of that boundlessness taking form. If all things arise from a deeper unity, then apparent conflicts are part of a hidden harmony. If everything changes through interaction, then stability is not the absence of opposition, but the balance of opposing forces. And if human understanding depends on contrast, then our perception is always shaped by this underlying structure. When combined with other reflections on existence, a coherent vision emerges. The world is a dynamic system of balance, where opposites define, sustain, and transform each other within a unified and ever-unfolding reality. Justice in nature, as understood through early Greek reflection, is not a human invention imposed upon the world. It is not a law written by people and projected onto the cosmos. Instead, it is something far deeper and older, a principle embedded in the very structure of existence itself. It is the idea that nothing remains permanently out of balance, and that every state of being carries within it the requirement of return, adjustment, and restoration. To understand this, we must first let go of the assumption that nature is indifferent chaos. While events may appear random on the surface, beneath them lies a pattern of exchange. Everything that exists occupies a place in a larger order, and every action within that order has consequences that extend beyond immediate perception. Nothing is isolated. Every force, every form, every moment participates in a continuous system of giving and receiving. This is where the idea of cosmic justice emerges, not as moral judgment in a human sense, but as a natural balancing process. When something grows excessively, it eventually meets resistance. When something dominates, it eventually encounters limits. when something cares, it must eventually give back, not because the universe is punishing or rewarding, but because imbalance cannot remain permanent within a structured reality. Consider the cycle of the seasons. Summer expands warmth and growth, but it does not remain forever. Its abundance eventually gives way to the contraction of autumn and winter. Winter, in turn, does not persist indefinitely. It prepares the conditions for renewal in spring. Each phase gives up its dominance so that another may arise. This is not conflict in the destructive sense, but regulated exchange. Each state carries within it the seeds of its own limitation and transformation. The same principle appears in the flow of water. A river carves its path through the land, shaping everything in its way. Yet over time, the land reshapes the river as well. Sediment builds, banks shift, courses change. The river does not possess the land permanently, nor does the land permanently resist the river. Instead, both adjust to each other until a new balance is formed. The system self-corrects through continuous interaction. Even in the structure of life, this principle is visible. Every organism must take from its environment to survive, yet it also returns something to it through waste, decay, and eventual dissolution. Life feeds on life, but it also becomes the foundation for new life. Nothing is permanently held outside the cycle of return. What is taken is eventually released back into the system in another form. This idea becomes even more profound when applied to time itself. Moments do not accumulate endlessly in one direction. Instead, time behaves like a series of adjustments, where each present state arises from the correction of what came before. Excesses are balanced by limitations, expansions by contractions, and stability by change. The present moment is always shaped by what is being restored from the past and what is being prepared for the future. In this view, imbalance is never final. It is temporary by nature. If something appears to dominate for a time, that dominance is not absolute. It is part of a larger cycle that will eventually shift. What rises must also fall, not as punishment, but as structural necessity. The world maintains coherence through constant redistribution. This does not mean that forces are actively corrected by intention. There is no need to imagine a controlling will directing outcomes. Instead, the system itself contains within it the conditions for adjustment. Just as a stretched elastic band naturally returns toward its original shape, the world tends toward equilibrium through its own internal structure. The principle of return is embedded in the nature of things. From this perspective, justice is not about reward or punishment. It is about restoration of balance. When something moves too far in one direction, opposing forces naturally emerge, not as enemies, but as corrective responses within the system. These responses are not moral judgments. They are structural consequences of imbalance. This also reshapes how we understand change. Change is not random disruption. It is the mechanism through which balance is maintained. Without change, imbalance would accumulate indefinitely, eventually breaking the system. But because change is continuous, the system remains dynamic and self-adjusting. Every transformation is part of a broader process of maintaining coherence. Even destruction fits into this framework. What appears as loss or collapse is often the release of accumulated imbalance. Structures break not because the world is chaotic, but because they have reached a point where adjustment is necessary. What dissolves does not disappear into nothing. it becomes material for new forms. In this sense, destruction is not outside justice, it is one of its expressions. Human experience reflects this principle as well. Actions create consequences that extend beyond intention. Excessive pride may eventually lead to correction through failure. Excessive fear may eventually give way to courage through necessity. Excessive control often collapses into unpredictability. These are not moral punishments, but natural recalibrations within lived reality. Life itself tends toward restoring equilibrium, even through discomfort. This idea also applies to societies. When systems become unbalanced, whether through inequality, excess accumulation, or suppression of certain forces, they eventually encounter pressure that demands adjustment. That pressure may take many forms, but its function remains consistent: to restore a more stable configuration. The form of correction may vary, but the underlying principle does not. At a deeper level, this suggests that the universe is not indifferent in the sense of being disordered. It is indifferent only in the sense that it does not favor permanent extremes. It does not allow any single condition to remain absolute. Instead, it continually reshapes conditions so that no imbalance be. Here comes final. When viewed alongside other reflections on existence, this principle becomes part of a larger picture. If reality arises from something boundless and indefinite, then all forms are temporary expressions of that origin. If opposites define each other through interaction, then balance emerges from tension. And if everything returns toward equilibrium over time, then change itself is the mechanism through which unity is preserved. Together, these ideas form a coherent vision. Reality is a self-balancing system in which all things arise from a boundless source, exist through the interplay of opposites, and return toward equilibrium through continuous adjustment. Nothing stands outside this process. Everything participates in it, whether in growth, decline, stability, or transformation. Life is often imagined as something fixed in its origins, as if every living being were designed in a finished form and then placed into the world unchanged. But in the early Greek way of thinking about reality, life is not a completed design. It is a process of unfolding. Living beings are not static products. They are transitions. They emerge, adapt, transform, and eventually dissolve, becoming part of a larger cycle that never stops moving. At the heart of this idea is a simple but powerful shift in perspective. Life does not begin with perfection or finality. It begins with simplicity and possibility. From that simplicity, complexity gradually emerges. What we call higher forms of life are not separate creations dropped into existence fully formed. They are later expressions of a continuous process of development shaped by changing conditions over vast stretches of time. This means that life is not a ladder with fixed steps, but a flow with no permanent rungs. There is no final stage where development ends. Every form of life is both a result of what came before and a condition for what comes after. Nothing is isolated in its creation. Everything is connected through transformation. To understand this, imagine the earliest forms of living existence. They would not have been complex, structured beings, but simple expressions of life responding directly to their environment. Over time, as conditions changed, water, land, air, temperature, life did not remain the same. It adapted, not because it planned to, but because existence itself is dynamic. Change in the environment demands change in response. And over long spans of time, these small responses accumulate into entirely new forms. This suggests that life is fundamentally responsive rather than fixed. It does not stand apart from the world. It is deeply embedded within it. The boundaries between organism and environment are not rigid walls but fluid interactions. A living being is constantly exchanging with its surroundings, taking in, releasing, adjusting, and evolving. Breath itself is a symbol of this relationship. Inhalation and exhalation are not separate acts, but parts of a single continuous rhythm of exchange. From this perspective, evolution is not a sudden leap, but a gradual refinement of interaction. Life becomes more complex not because complexity is imposed from outside, but because interaction with the world becomes more intricate over time. Each generation is shaped by the conditions left behind by the previous one, and in turn contributes to the conditions of the next. Life is therefore a chain of transformations rather than a collection of fixed identities. Even within a single organism, this principle is visible. A living body is never truly static. It is constantly renewing itself. Cells die and are replaced. Energy is consumed and restored. Structures within the body shift in response to internal and external demands. What appears to be a stable self is actually a continuous process of maintenance and change. Identity, then, is not a fixed substance, but an ongoing activity. This challenges the idea that life is defined by permanence. Instead, life is defined by continuity through change. What remains consistent is not the material itself, but the pattern of transformation. A river remains a river not because it is made of the same water, but because it maintains a continuous flow. In the same way, a living being remains itself not because it is composed of unchanging parts, but because it preserves a continuous process of organization and renewal. The early Greek perspective also suggests that life is not separate from the broader structure of nature. It is not an exception within reality, but one of its expressions. Just as opposites interact and balance is maintained through adjustment, life participates in the same dynamic system. It is one of the ways in which reality expresses its capacity for change, adaptation, and renewal. This means that life is deeply connected to the principle of transformation found throughout nature. Rocks erode into soil. Soil becomes the foundation for plants. Plants become nourishment for animals. And all eventually return to the ground. Life is woven into this cycle, not as something external, but as an active participant in the movement of matter and energy through different states. In this sense, life does not begin or end in absolute terms. It transforms. What appears as birth is a reorganization of existing conditions into a new form. What appears as death is a release of that form back into the broader system from which it arose. Nothing is lost in the absolute sense. Everything is redistributed. Life is a continuous circulation of form and matter within a larger, ever-changing structure. This view also implies that complexity itself is not a goal, but a result. Living forms become more intricate not because complexity is required, but because interaction with the environment naturally produces new patterns. Over time, these patterns accumulate, branching into diverse expressions of life. Diversity, then, is not accidental. It is the natural outcome of continuous adaptation within changing conditions. At the same time, this perspective avoids the idea that life is directed toward a fixed endpoint. There is no final form of life that all others are moving toward. Instead, there is an ongoing process of adjustment where each form is suited to its own moment in the unfolding structure of reality. What matters is not reaching completion, but maintaining balance within change. This leads to a deeper insight. Life is not separate from transformation. It is transformation made visible. It is the expression of change organized into patterns that can sustain themselves for a time. But those patterns are never permanent. They are always subject to the broader movement of reality, which continues beyond any individual form. When viewed alongside other reflections, this understanding of life fits into a larger framework. If reality originates from something boundless and indefinite, then life is one of its expressions taking form. If opposites define existence through interaction, then life exists through constant exchange with its environment. If imbalance is corrected through natural adjustment, then life participates in cycles of growth and return. And if everything ultimately moves through transformation, then life is one of the clearest expressions of that continuous process. Together, these ideas reveal a unified vision. Life is not a fixed state, but a flowing process within a boundless reality, shaped by interaction, sustained through change, and continuously returning to the larger system from which it emerges. In the ancient attempt to understand the structure of the cosmos, one of the most radical shifts in thought was the rejection of visible support as the explanation for stability. At first glance, it seems natural to assume that anything stable must be held up by something else. Human intuition demands foundations. A table rests on legs, a building rests on earth, a mountain appears to rest on a deeper base. But when this logic is extended to the scale of the entire world, it begins to collapse. If everything that is supported must itself be supported by something else, then the question of what ultimately holds everything up becomes endless. At some point, thinking must move beyond the idea of physical support and toward a deeper principle of equilibrium. From this perspective, the earth does not rest upon anything. It does not float on water, nor sit on pillars, nor balance on a hidden structure beneath it. Instead, its stability arises from something far more fundamental: balance within the whole of existence. The earth remains where it is not because it is held, but because it is equally related to everything around it. There is no privileged direction of down in the universe, and therefore no need for a supporting surface beneath it. To understand this, we must first let go of a deeply rooted assumption that down is an absolute direction. In everyday experience, down simply means toward the ground beneath our feet. But this experience is local, not universal. What we call down is simply the direction in which matter is drawn toward the center of a massive body. On the opposite side of the world, down is still toward the center, even though it appears reversed from our perspective. This reveals something important. Direction is not absolute, but relational. The earth, then, does not require a physical structure beneath it because it is not positioned within a system that has a universal below. Instead, it exists in a surrounding expanse where every direction extends outward equally. In such a system, there is no need for support because there is no ultimate ground. The earth is not placed on something. It is suspended within a field of relationships. This suspension is not fragile. It is not like an object hanging by a thread. It is a state of equilibrium produced by symmetry. Every part of the earth is equally drawn inward toward its center. At the same time, there is no external force pushing it off balance. The result is stability, not because it is held in place, but because all forces cancel out into a unified center of balance. In this sense, the earth is not anchored, it is centered. Its position is not determined by what lies beneath it, but by the equilibrium of forces within it. This challenges the instinct that stability requires a foundation. Instead, it suggests that stability can arise from balance alone. This idea extends beyond the earth itself. If the earth does not rest on anything, then the entire cosmos cannot be structured as a stack of layers resting upon one another. There is no bottom layer supporting everything above it. Instead, reality must be understood as a continuous field in which every part is related to every other part without needing an external base. From this perspective, space itself is not divided into up and down in any absolute sense. These directions are relative to the position of the observer. What appears as above from one location is below from another. The cosmos does not have a universal orientation. It has no preferred direction, no privileged ground, no ultimate foundation. This lack of absolute direction leads to a deeper insight. Stability in the universe is not achieved through support, but through equilibrium of relationships. Every object exists in relation to others, and its position is determined by the balance of those relationships. The earth remains stable not because it is held, but because it is in harmony with the surrounding structure of existence. This harmony is not static. It is dynamic and ongoing. The earth is not frozen in place. It is part of a continuous system of movement and interaction. It rotates, it orbits, it responds to forces within the cosmos. Yet despite this motion, it maintains stability. This reveals an important principle. Stability and movement are not opposites. They coexist when balance is maintained within a system of forces. Just as opposites define each other through interaction, motion and stillness define each other within the structure of cosmic balance. The Earth's stability is not the absence of movement, but the result of balanced movement. It is held not by immobility, but by the harmony of motion itself. This understanding also dissolves the need for an external holder of the world. If everything is already in a state of mutual relation, then nothing needs to be placed upon something else. The universe does not require an external support because it is self-consistent. Each part is sustained by its relation to the whole. Even the idea of falling becomes relative in this framework. Objects do not fall toward an absolute bottom. They move towards centers of mass. What we perceive as downward motion is simply the expression of local equilibrium being restored. Gravity is not a direction imposed from below. It is a tendency toward balance within a system. Seen this way, the Earth's existence is not exceptional. It is representative. Every celestial body exists in a similar condition of balance. Stars, planets, and moons are not resting on anything. They are positioned through the interaction of forces within a vast, continuous structure. The cosmos is not built like a structure with a foundation, but like a field where every point is sustained through relation. This leads to a profound realization. Existence does not require grounding in a physical base. It requires coherence. What holds the world together is not support, but consistency. As long as the relationships between parts remain balanced, the system remains stable. This idea aligns with other reflections on reality. If existence arises from something boundless and indefinite, then there is no ultimate bottom or foundation. If opposites define each other through interaction, then direction and position are relational, not absolute. If imbalance is corrected through natural adjustment, then stability is maintained through continuous equilibrium. And if life itself evolves through adaptation, then even living systems participate in this broader structure of balance without fixed support. Together, these insights form a unified vision. The Earth does not rest on anything because reality itself does not require a foundation. It is a self-balancing system of relationships, where stability arises from harmony rather than support, and where every part exists through its connection to the whole. Human beings are often driven by a deep desire to understand everything clearly, completely, and finally. We want certainty. We want systems that explain the world without remainder, leaving no unanswered questions. Yet one of the most important realizations in early Greek reflection is that human understanding is not limitless. It is powerful, but it is also partial. It sees fragments, patterns, and relationships, but never the totality of what lies beneath existence itself. This limitation is not a flaw in the sense of failure. It is a structural feature of how perception and thought work. We do not encounter reality as a whole. We encounter it through perspective, through position, through condition. Every act of seeing already selects, filters, and frames what is seen. The mind does not receive the world in its entirety. It constructs a view of it from within it. To understand this, we can begin with a simple observation. No human being ever sees reality from nowhere. Every observation is made from somewhere. Every thought is formed within a context. Every experience is shaped by conditions that are already in place before awareness begins. This means that what we call knowledge is always situated. It is always limited by the standpoint from which it arises. Imagine trying to understand an entire landscape while standing in only one place. You may see mountains, rivers, and plains, but only from a particular angle. You may infer the shape of what lies beyond your sight, but you cannot directly access it all at once. Even if you move, you only exchange one limited perspective for another. The full landscape exists, but your access to it is always partial. This is how human understanding operates. We build models of reality from limited data. We connect observations into patterns. We refine our ideas over time. But at no point do we step outside the system entirely and observe it from a position of total overview. There is no external vantage point from which the whole of existence can be seen at once. We are always within what we are trying to understand. This does not make understanding meaningless. On the contrary, it makes it relational. Knowledge is not a mirror reflecting total truth. It is a process of approaching coherence from within limitation. We learn by comparing fragments, identifying patterns, and adjusting our views as new information emerges. Understanding grows, but it never becomes absolute. One of the key insights of this perspective is that what we call certainty is often just stability within a limited frame. We feel certain when our model of reality works well within the boundaries of our experience. But that certainty does not guarantee completeness. It simply indicates that within a given range, our interpretation holds together. This is why knowledge is always open to revision. New experiences can reshape old conclusions. What once seemed final may later appear incomplete. This is not a weakness of thought. It is a reflection of the fact that reality itself is larger than any single description of it. Even language contributes to this limitation. Words divide the continuous flow of reality into discrete categories. We name things, separate them, and define them as if they are fixed. But reality does not arrive in neatly separated units. It is continuous, interconnected, and constantly changing. Language helps us navigate it, but it also simplifies it. Every description is a reduction of something more complex. This means that human understanding is always an approximation. It points toward reality without fully containing it. Like shadows cast by a moving object, our ideas shift and change depending on the angle of perception. They are not false, but they are incomplete. Yet this incompleteness is not a barrier to meaningful engagement with the world. It is what makes inquiry possible. If we already possessed full understanding, there would be no movement, no questioning, no discovery. The fact that we do not see everything at once is precisely what allows thought to unfold over time. This also reshapes how we think about truth. Truth is not a single static object waiting to be fully captured. It is something approached through multiple perspectives, each revealing a different aspect of a larger whole. No single viewpoint exhausts it, but each contributes to a more complete understanding when combined with others. In this sense, human knowledge is collaborative even when it is individual. Different perspectives add layers to a shared exploration of reality. Each mind contributes a fragment of insight shaped by its position, experience, and limitations. Together, these fragments form a broader, though still incomplete, picture of existence. There is also a deeper humility in recognizing this limitation. It reminds us that no single interpretation can claim final authority over reality itself. Every system of thought, no matter how refined, remains within the boundaries of human perspective. This does not diminish the value of thinking. It places it in its proper context. At the same time, this limitation connects directly to other features of reality. If existence arises from something boundless and indefinite, then no finite mind can fully contain it. If opposites define each other through relation, then understanding one side always depends on what lies beyond it. If balance is maintained through continuous adjustment, then knowledge itself must remain open to correction. And if life is a process of transformation, then thought too must evolve rather than remain fixed. Seen in this way, human understanding is part of the same dynamic system that governs all of reality. It is not separate from the world it tries to understand. It is one of its expressions, limited, evolving, and always in relation to something greater than itself. And so we arrive at a final recognition. Human understanding is powerful but never complete. It moves through fragments of reality, assembling patterns that help us navigate existence, while always remaining within the larger whole it cannot fully grasp. This does not lead to resignation, but to perspective. It allows us to see knowledge not as possession of truth, but as participation in an unfolding reality that exceeds every attempt to define it. When placed alongside the other reflections, this insight completes the broader vision. Reality emerges from the boundless, unfolds through opposition, maintains balance through correction, expresses itself through transformation, and remains always partially beyond full human comprehension, forming a unified, ever-unfolding system that cannot be fully contained by any single viewpoint.